Good morning. It is Wednesday, September the 5th. This is a special meeting of Commissioners Court, although you can't tell that by looking at the agenda. However, this is the 5th day of September 2018 at 9:15. Counselor, is it okay to start, or no? No.
I
We'll
drag
wait.
your feet a little bit.
I will. I can do that. It's Wednesday, September the 5th, 2018. It is now 9:15 a.m. This is a special meeting of Grimes County Commissioners Court. We're calling the meeting to order. We'd like to start with the invocation and pledge to the U.S. and the American flag. Would you rise and join me, please? Father, we thank you for this day, and dear God, for the blessings of this life. We're grateful for the rain that we've received recently, and Father, we will be greedy and ask you to bless us again with more rain, to soak our grounds, to green our fields, and to just make this the place that we want it to be. Father, we would ask that you be with Commissioners Court this day as we make decisions that affect the citizens of this county, that you give us guidance, that you give us wisdom. Father, we are grateful for those that are willing to serve. We ask that you be with our first responders. We know they carry a heavy burden, whether they be fire or EMS, or if they be our sheriff's department, our police department in Navasota. Father, we ask that you be with them and give them strength, give them protection for the daily occurrences that they encounter. Father, we just bless to live in this county, this state, and this country. And for that, we're grateful and we're thankful. And in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Would you be seated, please? We'll open the podium up for any public comments there might be. We look forward to hearing from the citizens of Grimes County. If you will, come to the podium, identify yourself, share your thoughts, limit your thoughts to 2 minutes. So nothing goes unsaid. I'll make a public announcement. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the Waller County Community Center, there is a TCEQ meeting. Stands for Texas Commission Environmental Quality, and it's being hosted by TCEQ, and it's in regards to public comments on the high-speed rail. So if you're for the project or if you're against the project, or you don't know about the project, tomorrow evening is the last of 3 meetings that TCEQ has scheduled for that topic. So please be aware that's at the Waller County Community Center tomorrow evening. Are there any other public announcements, public comments? Last call. Seeing none, we're going to go to agenda item number 3. Grimes County Sheriff's Office, Todd Green, discuss and take action to approve school resource officer for High Point Elementary in Navasota ISD. Good morning, Mr. Green.
Good morning. This is the program that was started back in 2008 to provide some officers in schools. Recently, we just learned that Anderson ISD wanted a full-time officer, and then we made contact with Navasota. They desire to expand their hours also. This is trying to fill that need. In order to do so, we actually hired a part-time employee, and we need to present it to court to get that approved. The officer actually started the first day of school, and so this is to prove that and also make sure he gets compensated for his work and stuff.
Okay. Anything else? On that,
Can-
go ahead.
I was gonna ask, how many days and hours?
It's gonna be, 29 hours for 5 days a week.
And the plan is that they'll work 4 6-hour days and 1 5-hour day. That's my understanding. And those days might rotate so people don't pick up a pattern of where we have security, but that's what the plan is.
So the Navasota ISD just voted in their last meeting to utilize the constables for that service. So I don't necessarily know that this is our decision, it's their decision.
Well, we had a meeting, was it last week?
Yes, sir.
And we brought Stan Music, Dr. Music in, who's the superintendent. We brought in the auditors, we brought in Wes Mayo, who's the constable that got all this discussion started. And it was decided in that meeting that this would be under the sheriff's office for a couple of reasons. One, they have the relief manpower in the event there's illness or vacation, sickness or holidays issues. The other thing was that this is in precinct 2, not in precinct 3. Precinct 3 is what? Precinct 3 and 4 is Constable Mayo's precinct. So we were able, plus the money was going to be available in the sheriff's office where it was not going to be available in the constable's office.
Okay, but the school board has taken a vote and voted to utilize the constable's office in this matter.
They will have to rescind that vote and redo the contract with the county. is what
Are
will
they
have
willing to
happen.
do that?
Yes, Dr. Music said so. And Wes Mayo, when he made the proposal, Constable Mayo, when he made the proposal, he made it with the understanding that it has to get the approval of Commissioners Court, and Dr. Music understood that. So that was the agreement we had left with from that meeting last week, that they were in agreement that the sheriff's office would provide the 5 days of security for High Point. And the reason Navasota Police Department is not, because it's outside of their jurisdiction. Any other concerns or questions?
Do we, I guess for the full-time resource officers, we supplement $10,000? Is it kind of a prorated deal based on the
It's a
hours?
prorated deal, but I don't know that it's 10,000.
It's not
It's
10,000.
50.
A total of 10,000.
It's a total of,
At 10,000 and something, so it's about 5,000.
So does it,
it's like $5,100 per officer.
Yeah.
Per officer, so it's,
For
this,
full-time,
this one's about 3,700, I think is what.
38.
okay.
3883 or something.
So where's the money coming for this position?
The 3,800 will be coming from Grimes County. Navasota ISD is paying 27,558, and then we're offsetting vehicle, equipment, uniform, training and stuff through our current budget.
So is the 3883, is that for the remainder of this year, or is that for the whole 2000,
That's for
the
the,
upcoming budget?
that's for the school year 20, or for the 2019. Balance of this year and next, this school year.
Some of that is covered during the summer months when that officer is not in school and having to do the training and stuff and actually providing service for Grimes County. So,
So
Will
the
be
50,
budgeted in fiscal year 2019, the 38.
okay. So the 38, it won't be the 51.
No, it's 3883.91.
You'll see the 10,000 increase by the 3883.
Okay.
And Commissioner Cox, one of the other issues was that if we left it under the constable's office, then we're gonna have to come up with another 25 to 35,000 for a vehicle, which we did not have in the budgetary plans, but we do have that available, that vehicle available in the sheriff's office.
My main concern is if the Navasota ISD School Board does not rescind their vote and change their vote, we're in a quandary.
It's not gonna happen, because we reached an agreement with them in the meeting that we had last week.
With the school board?
Yes, sir.
Not
no.
with the school board, with the superintendent.
Okay. The school board is the one that has the authority to make those decisions, and they've made a decision.
Let me back up and see if I can explain what happened in this situation. Because Anderson waited because of their budget, waited until the last minute to make the changes, because there is a push to get security, and a lot of it's gonna be a big issue in the legislature in the next session, as we know, because of what happened in Santa Fe. Anderson decided to take an officer full-time. Navasota was scrambling. There were some miscommunications with the sheriff's department that got us into this situation. And we called a meeting to get everybody together last Thursday to get this resolved. We did that. We met with the board president and Ronnie Gonzalez. Everybody agreed to what we decided in that meeting. So they're gonna go back to the board in their meeting and get this taken care of, and it will move forward as we have it lined out.
I'd like to read in part of the email that I received from Dr. Music, and I think you received the same email. And in part, paragraph 1, 2, 3, I asked both offices, this is Dr. Music speaking, I asked both offices to put together some information on cost proposals and to send to me so that we could take that to our school board at the meeting last night. I shared that we would love to be able to go to full-time 5-day coverage out here if we could, but would have to take a look at our budget options. And then in paragraph 4, in part, it says, last night, the NISD board approved moving forward with the 29-hour per week 5-day proposal from Constable Mail. We understand that there are still steps that would have to be taken and approved for that to happen. So the understanding that he had, I believe, from the school board, what they voted on, Commissioner, was that they would go with a 5-day officer. The question is, who's going to provide that officer? So I understand your concern, but I don't, after our meeting last week with Dr. Music and with, was it Ronnie Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ronnie Gonzalez, we left with the understanding that they were okay with our proposal. The reason that we have this item on the agenda prior to consent agenda items is we wanted to make sure that this was approved by the court for the 5-day person, and that we had funds available to pay the SRO that we hired.
And he's already worked out there too for this will be the second week, I think. Right, Todd?
Correct, yes, he worked first with the school.
So I understand your concern, but I think, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I believe what the school board has voted on was that they wanted a 5-day, that they voted to go for the 5-day person. And I believe they were not particular whether it was going to be under the constable's office or the sheriff's office. What their vote was to go to 5 days.
And that's what we have. And also, Constable Mail, correct me if I'm wrong, you did tell them this was contingent upon the school, on the Commissioners Court approving this, right, when you submitted that?
Yes, sir, I did say they'd have to come before Commissioners Court for approval.
So,
Is there any further discussion?
I'm just concerned about, I've seen a lot of things happen. And I don't want this court to have to get in a position where we have to pick one agency over the other. The school board has voted to do that, and I understand and I believe what you're telling me. But I've seen things happen in the past, even though it's intended to go one way, it goes another way. And I'm not real comfortable with this situation today. And I'm not real sure that we shouldn't wait and see and make sure that decision's not taken care of at the school board level, because they're ultimately the ones that are funding this position.
The majority of it, yes.
Yes.
So when is the next school board meeting?
I think it's probably at the end of the month, last Monday of the month, it used to be, I don't know exactly when they are.
First and third Monday.
First and third Monday.
Okay, well, then,
Commissioner, you didn't ask me to weigh in, but you all as a court could approve it subject to them rescinding their previous. So if you felt like there was a concern, your motion, your action today could be contingent upon them rescinding their previous action. So maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't.
Get that, I think,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
The item is to discuss and take action to approve school resource officer for High Point Elementary, Navasota ISD. This employee, he's working already, and we want him to get this position approved because he's working and he needs to be on payroll. We need to be able to have him in payroll. If he's moved later on, if they don't, if things get changed, that can be done later on, but we need to approve this position because we cannot not have this extra part-time position to be working those hours that you guys are agreeing that we need to provide the 29 hours, 5 days a week as what they're requesting. But we need to be able to add him on payroll, and he is truly working.
So
That's just from our perspective.
that brings up another question. When does it become effective that it's a 5-day a week? Because previously it was a 2-day a week, roughly.
It becomes effective last Monday.
Because it was filled in for the days that the officer did not work 2 days a week.
so currently his pay would come out of the sheriff's department,
No,
which,
his pay comes out of Fund 86,
Fund 86.
which is SRO.
SRO.
Okay, out of SRO.
Yes, where all the other SROs come out.
Okay, and we've already had High Point funding previously.
Well, yes, it was
But-
part-time because Anderson
part-time.
was part-time. So currently, right now, and the school pays
Mhm.
for almost all of his salary.
Mhm.
So as the agenda, like she said, as the agenda says, it's approving this position. And so if their school board approved on Monday, 5 days a week for 29 hours, they approved that. So they know that they're gonna have to pay this much money, $27,558.21. They are aware of that, and that was in their meeting. And that will be in their minutes as well, which will be approved, I think they said at the end of this month, at their next meeting, is what I was told.
That's correct.
And so that's where, if he worked, he started working because they needed someone with the school, the day that the school started. And so we're just trying to get this position approved. But the 5 hours comes, or the 5 days a week, comes from where they're gonna be reimbursing us. They're gonna be paying for this SRO.
And I don't think anything would have changed had Anderson not at the last minute said, we want them full-time instead of just 3 days a week. Because at that particular point in time, Navasota had not expressed any desire to have an officer there more than the 2 days a week that we've been providing for some time. And the only reason this has come up is because of the fact that Anderson wanted to have a full-time officer, and the officer that was working for them part-time was working part-time for Navasota, which made him a full-time employee. And so when Anderson said, we want him full-time, then that left us scrambling to try to find somebody to cover High Point for 2 days. And then we get somebody in to cover it for 2 days, and then they come back and say, no, we want it for 5 days. So the sheriff's office has had an agreement with the school districts for 10 years. And we're just trying to get this person approved, the position approved, so that he can be paid on this pay rate.
Well, it didn't only leave the sheriff department scrambling, it left the school district scrambling a week before school on how they're gonna resolve the issue.
It did.
It did.
And now we're here having to decide
Well, within less than an hour and a half of the sheriff's office notifying Navasota ISD that they were having to look for somebody else to take that position, since Anderson wanted a full-time position. In less than an hour and a half, the sheriff's office called them back and said, we've got somebody to cover those 2 days. We're good to go. The sheriff's office took this person out the week before school started, walked them through the school, introduced them to the staff, and then all of a sudden, on Monday evening at the school board meeting, all this other blows up.
That's a lot can happen in an hour and a half.
Do we want to provide the school with an SRO position?
Absolutely.
Okay. So do we want to provide the school with an SRO position for 5 days a week for 29 hours?
That's up to them.
But that's what they approved in their board meeting. That is what they approved, 5 days a week for 29 hours. And if we want to.
Wait a minute. That's not what they approved in their board meeting.
Is it 5 days a week for 29 hours a week?
What did they approve, though?
What they approved,
The position, I'm strictly just talking about the position and SRO there, not who it's under, not who
Okay.
it's under.
I understand that. Both agencies are very capable of providing that service. One may be more equipped to do so than the other. I don't know. I don't want to get into all that.
Yes, sir.
But the school board made a decision that night on what they were gonna do. And at this time, I'm not sure that, I mean, that's up to them what they do. And they can change their vote or they may not change their vote. Who knows?
Well, like, your
But
attorney
yes.
suggested, it could be contingent
Contingent,
upon.
Yeah.
so.
But the
we-
position wouldn't be contingent, right? Just
Yes.
on who would oversee
Who's
it.
overseeing it?
The position you would approve, but the contingency would be on who oversees it. And it comes out of Fund 86, whether the sheriff's office oversees it or as far as their salary alone, with the exception of certificate pay, but their salary comes out of Fund 86. I guess we're just wanting the position approved is. who
And keep
oversees
in
it.
mind that it sounds like the sheriff department has all of the other amenities that come along with the job, the training, the vehicle, all of that has already been operating under the sheriff department, that's all. So I think you were, if it went to Constable 3, then he would need a vehicle and whatever else operating.
The main issue is that we've resolved the situation of them having security out there for 5 days a week for the children, the teachers, and the administration. Therefore, I move that we approve this on the contingency that the board votes to accept the proposal that was discussed in our meeting last Thursday.
There's a motion before the court by Commissioner Dobianski. Is there a second?
Is that adequate to put them on the payroll, or I think we just
I didn't
approve the
hear it.
position?
Yeah.
Well, you said with a contingency, but I think we want to approve your position
Yeah.
with the contingency.
The contingency is the overseer.
Overseer,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll second the motion.
I do have a question.
While I'm getting ready to ask, is there further discussion, so go ahead.
Okay, we're saying contingent upon who it's under. Okay, so if we came back and we're waiting till school board has a meeting, then I think that we're looking at next week approving a budget. So wouldn't it change the budget if, based upon which direction they go?
It would, but we have a budget hearing Monday morning, I think, a
Mhm.
budget workshop. We can discuss that in that workshop. If it's gonna change, I don't
But
know.
all SROs are paid out of Fund 86
Well,
irregardless.
they're talking about the other, the vest, the belt, the tasers,
The
the
operating.
vehicle, yes, the conferences, they're talking about all that, which is, right, the certificate pay, I mean, we would have to find the money if that's what, because right now, the SRO was, the sheriff's office was absorbing that, but that can be a discussion for Monday, if that's.
We can also, whether they've approved it or not, we get a copy of the school board minutes, I believe, and review.
You can.
So, and that might give clarity to
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Is there further discussion? All in favor of the motion before the court, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move to consent agenda items number 4, number 5, number 6. Consider and take action to approve the treasurer's list of claims and bills. Consider and take action to approve payroll. Consider and take action to approve budget amendments and/or line item transfers. And I would just ask the auditors on the line item transfers, it seems like there are more than a couple. That's because we're getting towards the end of the year. We need to move money from one line item to another just to cover expenses and things. Okay.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to make the motion, we could approve the consent agenda items 4, 5, 6. 4,
Second.
5, and 6.
There's a motion before Commissioners Court to approve consent agenda items 4, 5, and 6 by Commissioner Walker, seconded by Commissioner Dobianski. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That'll take us to item number 7, Human Resources Director Lucy Pope. Number 7, consider, review, and take action on holiday policy regarding part-time employees. See attachment 7. Ms. Pope, I am so glad you have this resolved for us.
No, if I ever not. Our policy says that part-time employees should be eligible for benefits only if the employee is regularly scheduled to work on that holiday. So, but our holidays state that we have 120 hours divided by 15 holidays, so that's 8 hours. Does the part-time employees, since they do get this benefit, and we give them this benefit, do we give them their regular work hours, or did we give them 4 hours, or did we give them 8 hours? And also, with our regular employees that work the 10-hour days, is it 8 hours they get, or do they get 10 hours?
When we budget 8 hours for holiday pay. So I think the answer to that is it's not,
For full-time, we do.
For
yeah,
full-time?
for full-time, but I mean, if it's a 10-hour person,
They're working 10 hours every day, and then.
For 4 days a
Let's
week.
say a holiday comes on a Friday. Do you give them 8 hours and have them make up that 2 hours, or take a vacation, or a sick day, or do you give them the 10 hours?
Mr. Walker's here and your team works 4 10s. How do you typically handle it?
We're doing 8 hours of holiday pay, and 2 hours could be vacation, or a lot of times they just don't charge time for the other 2 hours.
Judge Underwood, what is your office do?
We give them 10 hours holiday pay. It's a day's pay, is what it amounts to.
So do you get 2 hours administrative leave, or?
No, we just put it as 10 hours holiday pay.
Janice, wouldn't that make them go over on their holiday?
Well, sometimes a holiday falls on Friday. Sometimes, like Thanksgiving.
Like
So
that
my
Friday?
solution is, this 120 is 8-hour days.
8 hours.
And if they have 10-hour shifts, give them 8-hour holidays, 2 hours admin. That's my take on it. But I'm not the department head.
And years ago, we didn't give part-time employees this benefit.
Or just eliminate one altogether, that first,
That first.
number 1,
The eligibility?
Mhm.
the second sentence.
Didn't you have a special set of circumstances also, Chief Green?
As far as discussing the part-time, or we're discussing the full-time,
Part-time.
the 10 hours and 8 hours?
I think it was the part-time you and I talked about.
Because I got 12-hour employees and I got 8-hour employees. And at the end of the year, both my employees work 2,080 hours. So if I get 10 hours for holiday, or 12 hours for holiday for that employee, they're actually getting a lot more hours, anywhere from 40 hours more than my 8-hour employees. And originally that was planned out when the county went to the whole 15 holidays and gave them the bank of 120, because it started with the 10 and the 8 versus, and the county actually said, hey, we're gonna throw in an extra couple of holidays to help offset this, and everybody's getting the bank, and that way everybody's equal. So, and everybody still, at the end of the year, is working 2,080 hours, whether they working 4 days, 3 days. I got employees that work 12-hour days, and that goes in effect, and they're gonna get 40-something more holiday hours than employees that are working 5 days a week at 8 hours. So it's gonna throw everything off, and it's not gonna be fair for every individual employee. Now, the situation with the part-time, I think it needs to be kind of contingent based on the hours. If they work, you know,
If they work 5
if they
hours.
work 1,040 hours a year, then they're only eligible for half the 120 hours that are given. If they're working 70% of a full-time employee, then they get 70% of those hours. That's that way it's fair for every individual employee. across
Well,
the
that's
board.
in line with the way we budget, or that would be in line with the way we budget, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
I'd like to know why y'all didn't have this resolved years ago.
Wait for you.
It's been
Thank you.
a continuous problem.
I was always told we didn't have holiday time for part-time.
Back when I first started, we did not. It came on board when Judge Shiflett was in the office. And one of the elected officials wanted to put this be put on, and she went over with the commissioners and judge and had it put back on that part-time employees are eligible for holiday time. So,
Well,
other counties, I have gotten with other counties. Washington County does not give part-time employees holiday time. They do give to one, and that's the one appointed by the Commissioners Court, which is the Veterans Administrator. He does get holiday time, but otherwise than that, they do not give part-time employees. Walker County does not give part-time employees, holiday time.
Well, our part-time employees are important to us
Right.
to the degree we have them on the payroll. Do you have a proposed solution?
My solution is part-time employees should not receive this benefit. I mean, yes, they're employees of Grimes County, but when they come on board, they know that they're part-time employees. And, you know, gradually, they might become a full-time employee and get all the benefits. We give all the benefits to full-time employees. But part-time employees, if we're gonna give them this benefit, we might as well give them all the benefits. You know, that's my philosophy on it, but it's up to you and the 4 commissioners to make that decision.
If we give them the holiday benefit, then we should probably give them vacation.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
agree with
I'm
that.
just saying,
No.
that's gonna be the next thing that's gonna come up.
Well, it can be, but if we haven't started it, we don't have to start it.
Well, don't they have to work over 30 hours before we give them any vacation time?
That's right.
That's why they're all under 29
Yeah,
now.
that's right.
Under 20
Or they're
hours,
earning
because
29 or less.
we're not giving vacation, it's.
Michelle? Michelle?
I just wanted to say to keep in mind that we do have part-time employees that since they've been here have been receiving their part-time holiday pay. If they're working 4 hours, they get 4 hours. So this is a benefit that you'll be jerking away from a lot of employees that do wanna be full-time when we have a very difficult time keeping part-time employees just because it's difficult to make it today on a part-time basis, but we're trying to keep these employees until we have openings that are full-time. And it's one of those small benefits that makes it to where they can make it. You know, and some of those employees don't have, some of those part-time employees can't just alter their days and work a different day to make sure that they get that paycheck as well. It's a cut in pay if we take that away.
May I ask a question? Aren't my election judges, our Bryan County election judges, aren't they considered employees?
No.
They're temporary.
So that's
They're
different,
temporary,
that's
yes.
a different thing,
It's
because
a different-
we work a huge amount of
But they're still
holidays.
temporary part-time, that's.
So that's
only-
different. Oh, I'm up
totally
here for
different.
more.
This is regular part-time.
That's not the word.
Judge, you got a hand in the audience.
All right. Yes, sir.
I just would like to give my opinion. I don't have.
Do you have a solution?
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
I agree with what Chief Green said, that all employees should be equal, and 120 hours a year of holiday time should be the same for everyone. My suggestion, and I agree, kind of putting two things together, I agree with what Ms. Trent said. My suggestion to the court would be to make it policy that the most hours an employee can use in an individual day of holiday time would be 8 hours. It would then be up to their department head or elected official whether they supplemented the time. The elected official could make the decision to supplement the 2 hours of administrative time, or if the department wanted to make the decision that they could supplement it with vacation or sick time, they could do that. But leave the discretion to the department head on how they fix the last 2 hours or 4 hours, and say that 8 hours is 8 hours and that's it.
And let that reflect on the timesheet when I'm trying to get.
And then everyone ends up with 120 hours.
Right, everybody's equal.
Well, I had a quick question just for my own benefit. Don't y'all put a balance of 120 in every employee?
Sure.
And so
Sure.
if they're taking 10 hours a day, they're only gonna get 12 holidays.
Right.
So everyone is getting 120 hours, because I know on my paycheck stub, if there's a holiday, my number available reduces by whatever I put on my timesheet. So that's how you're ensuring no one is going over, they're just gonna get less, they're gonna receive less days.
Then on the
Well,
other
but-
3 days.
well, they
they'll have
only
to-
allow you to reduce 8 hours, so.
Right. You can't
Because you
take
can't
time in advance of the
take
holiday.
future holiday time is the way the current policy is going
Right.
right now.
And we're not gonna do that.
That way, somebody can use up all their time in 6 months and turn around and quit.
But I do think there needs to be verbiage in here to have clarity for the department heads. Because department heads change often, every 4 years. 2 years.
Or they could change.
Or they could.
So if this, from a payroll standpoint or what have you, if we table this to put additional language together, is that an issue for you guys?
As long as we don't table it for too long.
Okay. With Commissioner's permission, I'd like to table this, have the opportunity to put some language together and then bring that back forth before the court for discussion and action. You folks agreeable with that? We're gonna table agenda item number 7. I'll take the lead on that unless somebody else wants to take the lead. No, I mean, I'll give y'all the opportunity to take the lead if you want to. I'll take it. All right. Agenda item number 8, consider and take action on policy revision in regards to employees using rental cars in-state or out-of-state while working.
Judge and Commissioner, I put it the.
Do you have a solution for this one?
Yes. He's gonna come up and speak about this.
I don't want to waste a lot of time, let's go ahead and table it now and move on, or let's talk the solution.
I promise promise I'll keep this short, but this problem arose, because of me.
You're the offender?
I am the offender, and I actually brought this up with the court during budget time when it happened. So to give a real short version of this story, in July of this year, I flew to Montana to find a rape victim for a trial. It was county business, county paid for the flight, county paid for the hotel, county paid for the rental car. So I fly into Montana, I pick up the rental car on the 5th of July. I was all over town that afternoon, different police departments, various places. I'm by myself, traveling alone. The next morning, I wake up at the hotel, getting ready to start the day again, 9 a.m. And I happened to come out in the hotel where I was walking up to the vehicle from the passenger side, and I can see that somebody has sideswiped the vehicle. I don't know if it happened that night at the hotel or it could have happened the day before, because being alone, I wasn't going to the passenger side, and the damage was not that extreme, in that you had to be close to the vehicle to even notice it. Having said that, the bad side is they caught every quarter panel, and this vehicle had 900 miles on it when I picked it up. So, me working in the sheriff's office for years, I used to take care of these problems for them. I knew the procedure. I called TAC directly, filed the claims, did the paperwork, sent the pictures, told the auditor's office, did everything I'm supposed to do, and was under the impression from TAC that they would take care of it, as they, in my opinion, should do. We're the customer, I'm an employee, I'm renting the vehicle for a police assignment, etc. For whatever reason, and John Christopher Foltz, I'm sorry, can weigh in on this as he chooses. 30 days later, we get a letter from TAC that they're not going to cover this claim. My reading of it, and Mr. Foltz can correct me if I have misread it because I forwarded it to him. My reading of it is that they are saying that they don't have to cover the vehicle because I was not driving it at the time it was hit. So I'm not at fault. I wasn't even in the vehicle. The county's not at fault in that, as the responsible party for the vehicle, I didn't damage it. Having said that, it was in our care, custody, and control. I gave it to Mr. Foltz. Mr. Foltz checked with them. They are absolutely not going to cover it based on their policy. And my suggestion to him and the auditor's office at that time was, we need to address this within county policy. My suggestion, because I know you asked for a suggestion, my suggestion was going to be to just make it county policy that in all cases where somebody rents a vehicle, we take out the rental policy that the company has. The rental insurance that the company has. Typically, I tell you, I rent vehicles almost every weekend in my personal life, and I don't typically do that because my personal insurance covers it. And in my opinion, TAC should have covered this, but they obviously aren't, so we need to do something so this doesn't happen again.
So is your personal insurance gonna take care of this one?
No. And I'm not calling this on my personal insurance, this was work. I am still trying to get a bill from them, but I suspect this is gonna be a $5,000 or $6,000 bill. It was a vehicle that had 900 miles on it, and it's a $50,000 vehicle. So I can't imagine painting 4 quarter panels, and doing all that stuff that is going to be a $4,000 or $5,000 bill. I've been trying unsuccessfully for a week to get my hands on a bill before today, and I have not succeeded. I'm dealing with Hertz, which is a national company, and I can't seem to get the right person on the phone to get the bill. But anyway, I'm still working on it, but that's where we're at today, and that's why we're here today.
And Judge, we have very little rental car usage in the county. I think it would be more cost effective to just put it in there that if you rent a car for county business, that you go ahead and take out the additional insurance. Because otherwise, TAC wants them to call them and give them the VIN number of the vehicle, time and date they're picking it up, and then call them when they returned it so that it can be taken off. Well, in police business, they go all hours of the day and night, and TAC's only there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So that would create a problem for some of our employees in order to get coverage through TAC. So I think it would be less of a headache for everyone concerned is if we just went ahead and had the employees take out that rental insurance.
Okay.
Now, if more and more people, if I see that more and more people are starting to use rental cars, then we may revisit this again. But as it is right now, there are very few rentals, that happen within the county.
Then my suggestion would be that, Ms. Pope, you get with the auditor's office, rewrite the policy the way you think it's gonna best cover us
Okay.
in this situation, bring it back before the court, let us approve it at that time.
Okay, we'll do that.
Commissioners, is that acceptable to y'all? So we'll table this one for the time being.
Okay.
And it's inappropriate to discuss how your vehicle's gonna get paid for at this time, or, yeah, okay. Number 9, elections, thank you, Ms. Pope. Elections Office Voter Registrar Elections Administrator Rebecca Duff. Agenda item number 9, consider and approve request to purchase poll pad and ACOD from Hart Intercivic and authorize the county judge's signatory. See attachment number 9. Ms. Becky?
Yes, sir. What I've come to you today is asking about, this is an upgrade from the equipment that we have, and I gave pictures out, show and tell. And this makes it where, a lot of times when we're setting up, whether it's either election day or early voting, a lot of our election judges have a hard time putting our equipment together, even though we label every piece that we have now, they still connect it incorrectly. And why we have super voting centers is because of this equipment that we own now, it's live. They communicate with us election day or early voting. With this new equipment, it's easier, smaller, lighter weight, easier to use. It cuts down on human error, and also as the voter goes in and qualifies, it also would bring up the right ballot style. In the past, we've heard where some of our election judges may get confused on handing the wrong ballot style out to a voter. This would pull up the correct ballot. It would cut down on human error quite a bit. Plus, it's, like I said, it's lighter, easier to use on, for us. And how we got looking at this is Brazos County is looking at new voting equipment. This is voter registration on this part, and they had this equipment there. We looked at it before, and it was just much simpler to use. And plus, I had the IT, our Grimes County IT guy, Mr. Cannon, look at it as well, and he thought this would be better equipment for us to use. Our equipment's old that we have now, it's going to be end of life again, that I keep talking about, and this would be, for probably a good 5 years.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but in our budget workshops, I believe that you convinced us that that was the direction that we wanted to go as a
Yes, sir.
county. I think the issue comes up now, do we indeed have the money to pay for it? It's my understanding that you have some monies this year with the possibility of about 10,000 remaining throughout your budgets. You have money budgeted for next year. The issue is, Jesse, we need about 3,000 more.
Actually, no, the 32,000 that was budgeted for next year is for voting equipment.
Mhm.
She's gonna need 10,000 in addition to that for voter registration equipment, which is what she's requesting today. So she's not only gonna need the 3,000 for next year, but also a remaining of 10,000 to pay off the balance, is that correct, Becky?
Yes, ma'am. And
So
what happened?
13,000.
Yes, because of all the unforeseen elections, it's caught up with me, you know, and so now I'm in the deficit more so than I thought I was going to be. So that's why I need the 10,000
Plus the 3.
plus the 3,000. But I believe, I can, talk to Hart and split up my billing. So it would be coming out of the voting equipment that I had reserved, that I asked for. because we're still, Brazos County that we're looking at to buy the used equipment, voting equipment, they still haven't given us a price on what they're gonna sell the voting equipment for.
Well, we're in the month of September, and as we close out this budget year, it's gonna be important that you get it agreed with Hart what you're gonna pay this year and what's gonna be left to pay for next year, so that we make sure we get that portion out of this year's budget, the 2018 versus the 2019, because if we wait till October 1, then it's all coming out of 2019, and we won't be 13,000 in need, we'll be 23,000 in need.
I
So I
talked to the,
understand.
yes, sir, I talked to the salesman, and he said, once it went through court, gotta prove that I can purchase it, then I would tell them, this is what I can pay down now in September, and then the rest would be a second billing, in, October.
Okay.
So that's why I don't really have the hard fact, numbers of what exactly
So let me go back to Jesse Murphy for the court, for the commissioners. The total ticket is how much, Becky? How much?
$25,525.
So we're gonna plan on knocking off 10,000 of that in this year's budget. That leaves us 15,000.
Well, no, she has 6,900, was it 900? She has
through-
6,367 in chapter 19 funds, so
through
she'll
the
be
state.
10,000 out of general fund, 6,000 out of her chapter 19.
That's 16, so we still,
And she's gonna need approximately 13 for next year.
Okay.
Because the 25,525 is for the equipment, but there's if you look at her little,
the
her
second
sheet-
year amount for
yes,
3,000.
her reoccurring fees will be 3,000, and that's for license and support.
Right,
So that's where the 13 comes in.
okay. So if we approve this, then we still need to come up with additional funds
For
in our
next year.
workshop.
Yes. Or she can talk to Brazos County, try to get an estimate on the used equipment, the used voting equipment.
Yes, ma'am.
And if it's not gonna be 32, maybe it's gonna be 22, then we would only need to find.
It would just limit me on buying, buying from Brazos is because we're growing, we have the opportunity to buy this equipment from Brazos County, and so, that's what I would be buying, it's just more because it would cover our city and school elections, all our newly incorporations of cities that are growing, so it's just, I won't have as much of voting equipment, just trying to cover.
But we also have the option, since we have voting centers, to go from 14 precincts down to 10 precincts or
That's my-
something else.
Yes, sir, that's my hope eventually, so it would,
But you felt like it was a need because this is the second year you've requested it.
yes, would.
But the the show and tell that you showed us, that's new equipment, right?
That's brand new equipment, yes, sir.
Okay. So,
That's voter registration equipment.
Yeah.
There's two different types.
That's correct, that's correct.
so this is done, right?
The voter registration
Yeah.
equipment, no, she's asking for
For
permission.
y'all to sign.
No, I get that, but we have the money available for that,
You have
10,000.
Sure.
plus.
All right, so the voter equipment, explain that.
The bottom on my budget analysis, I think it's $32,000 I'm asking for, that's equipment, and I just grouped it in by thinking it's gonna cover any equipment that this department needs. So I would like to use part of that money to get this paid for,
All right,
and then when Brazos finally decides what they're gonna sell their equipment for, then I'll know how much money I have left over to buy for voting machines. We're not in dire need of
No.
being short on voting equipment, but I'm looking toward the future on covering it. And this, I believe, is very important, and it would help us be faster, better, quicker.
okay.
So then we can use part of that 32 to pay the remaining balance.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
Commissioners, I don't know if I confused you with that dialogue, but I understand better now. I think.
Okay, Ms. Mary, Oh, I'm sorry, that
She
was
said
Mary.
she can use.
On your proposal, is the air pad used?
Yes, they're revamped, it is a lot less money, and I was assured that they all work and we got them.
So this is what we're talking about here.
That's brand, yes.
This is not all brand new then?
Not that's correct, that's correct. I just opted to use it because they told us that that would be used, that they were all revamped, and that it would save the county money.
I just noted that it said used air pad.
Yes, ma'am.
And just to follow, trying to follow, because I'm hearing two different things. You currently have 32,000 in there now that you were gonna buy voting equipment?
That's next year's budget.
That's next year's budget she's
Yes.
talking about.
The proposed, what's in the proposed.
So what would come out of this year
She would move money around within her budget,
to,
and 10,000 of it would come out of her budget this year.
okay.
Ms. Walker, what happened is unforeseen elections, I'm in the red on my budget, close to $16,000. I really had a good time this year. And, because
How's she gonna move that around if she says she doesn't have it?
She has it other places.
She has 21,000 in machinery and equipment right now, and I told her we're using that money to cover some of her deficits. She was thinking she could use that money to purchase this equipment. And after we spoke, we both came to the conclusion and said that she did not have 21,000 because we needed to cover the deficits that she currently has. But with all her other monies in there in other different line items, she said, she has a couple of things coming out, we discussed those. After everything was said and done, we came up with $10,000 that she would have available for this year to split her invoice between years.
So the 10,000 then would come off the 23 or the 25?
The 25. So the total that she will have to pay is 25,525, and that is just for the first two sections. So on your invoice. But then beginning year 2, so whenever this becomes effective, I need to ask that question. We'll go with Mark. But beginning year 2, which I assume would be next year, if she's purchasing it this year, then she would have to pay $3,000 for license and support.
that's reoccurring, yes.
Which is recurring, and then she would also have to pay her remaining balance of her 25,000.
Did I not hear you say there's 6,000 in the other fund?
Yes, ma'am, that's
There
correct.
is, in chapter 19.
Okay.
This year she has 10,000 in her budget for 27 and 6,300 in chapter 19. So that'll pay 16.
And they're willing to do that with you?
Yes, sir.
Somebody ready to make a motion?
I make the motion that we approve the request to purchase pole pad and ACOD from Hart Civic and authorize the county judge's signature.
Second.
Which one you said?
I think you said it first.
Okay. There's a motion before the court on agenda item number 9 by Commissioner Walker, seconded by Commissioner Cox. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Dove, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Murphy, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 10, approve and take action to allow the auditor's office to solicit requests for proposals for a new depository contract.
Jessica's not here. Anyway, while she comes, sometimes it's affecting my office too, because this is for a new depository
Do you wanna, would you mind
contract.
coming to the podium?
In the contract for the depository,
And you are the county treasurer, Janice Trent?
Janice Trent,
That's
county
for our
treasurer.
viewing,
Yes.
for our viewing audience out there.
yada, yada, yada. And our contract ends in February, but we wanna go ahead and have RFPs submitted to different banks in the county, because transition period takes a little while. And so we wanna have this mailed out to them by December. If not sooner. We're just asking for y'all's, permission to solicit requests for a depository.
And this is something we normally do on an annual basis,
We
you're just
have-
doing it a little bit ahead of
We have a
schedule?
4-year contract,
Oh,
and we've been extended for 2 years.
okay,
So, yes, time's up and we need to do this.
okay.
Just review.
So, Ms. Herrera, does that meet with your approval?
Going out for bids for a new depository contract?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you need to say anything else?
On the timeliness, I know we're way ahead of time for what we typically do, for other contracts, but this one, we have to have time to transfer all of the accounts, and we've been through this before. It takes, sometimes there's hiccups, there could be a transposition, an account number, there could be just so many things that go wrong, so we wanna make sure we have time to transfer accounts in a smooth manner before going full blown to the new one. The new bank, if there is a new bank. And so we just wanna get the ball rolling. This doesn't mean that next week in the paper you're gonna see the advertisement for RFPs for it. It might take us a few weeks, but we just wanted to get the ball rolling. We're in the process of working on the RFP.
And we're required to do this.
And your deadline is
February,
of this year?
the
The
end of
contract
February.
expires
Next year.
February 2019. With the holidays getting, coming
That's past
up,
good.
we just wanna make sure we don't.
Not only are the holidays coming up, but our outside audit starts, and so, you know.
Well, if we can't even figure out how to pay holidays, we certainly need to get started on this.
We just need y'all to approve and take action.
Is there a motion before the court?
I move to allow the auditor's office to solicit ROPs for a new depository contract.
Okay.
RFPs.
Second.
There's a motion before the court on agenda item number 10 by Commissioner Mallett, second by Commissioner Dobianski. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Would you reflect the minutes that Commissioner Walker was
I voted.
recessed? You did vote?
Mhm.
You voted for it?
Mhm.
Never mind, that's a 5-0. Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 11, County Treasurer Janice Trent, consider and approve salary grade changes and salary definition changes for Assistant Treasurer. See attachment number 11. Ms. Trent?
Yes, sir. I'm Janice Trent, Grimes County Treasurer, for all that don't know me. I would like for y'all to look at the copies that I provided for y'all for 2 positions in my office. First Assistant Treasurer and Second Assistant Treasurer, with the descriptions and duties described. And also, I provide y'all with market values in the United States for these positions, as well as counties in comparable budget and population. These are the reasons I've asked for the upgrades. Keep in mind that each position, including mine, is cross-trained in my office. These positions serve all county departments and financial needs daily. Our office is the hub of the county. If you have read the job descriptions and market values as well as a comparison, you see that my request is valid.
What grade is your first Assistant Treasurer in currently?
They're both in 5.
They're both in 5. What do you want to take the first Assistant Treasurer
I want
to?
the first assistant treasurer to be a 7.
And the second Assistant Treasurer is currently in a 5, and you want to take that to?
A 6 with the verbiage being changed in the description in 6.
Is the verbiage before us reflecting that change?
No, sir.
Okay.
It will if they look at my job descriptions and we change the structure.
Okay.
And
So-
if y'all wanna meet with these individuals in these positions, I would suggest you do this in a closed meeting.
So just for the court's information, I was invited to sit in on the team during this process, just to witness what goes on, so I've been benefit to some information that probably, I don't necessarily know that I need to take a vote on this and may consider abstaining from the voting on this particular issue. But I am available if you've got any questions.
I'd like to know what your recommendation is. Since you had the privilege of that meeting.
I did ask him to leave.
You did ask him to leave the meeting, did he?
He told me he wasn't gonna be voting. I said, okay, just leave. No, he stayed.
Well, I mean, you, Commissioner, you have some insight that we might not have that I think would be appropriate for you to share with us.
Without going into a lot of detail, because it's not necessarily an agenda item topic today, it does deal with the salary and grade structure and coming up with some policy to dictate how we move down the road with this particular issue. I don't want to get into the business of micromanaging an elected official or department head's personnel or movements within their department. I understand that's what we have in place today, and she's requesting those changes. That's her job to determine where her people go in her department. Our job is to can we afford it, and can she afford it? Is it in her budget? And is it in our budget?
Well, I partially agree with what you say, but part of it is that I believe we need to make sure that regardless of what the treasurer thinks her jobs are worth, are they comparable to same or similar jobs throughout the county, and compare the worth of one area to another.
Well, the job descriptions that I've looked at and that I believe y'all have in your packet, I don't think vary greatly from the initial classification on the job structure. I'm not real sure that that's not where they're being requested to be moved today is not where they should have been placed to begin with.
Okay.
As far as the pay, we talk about market value and what that means, but in reality, our market value is basically the surrounding counties around us.
Sure.
And they can pay a lot more than we can pay. We do the best we can with what we have to utilize. So I don't necessarily know that we're ever gonna be able to meet the market demands in our general area just because we don't have as much as some of the surrounding counties do. I know there's an attached United States payroll salary comparison, and that's great, but that's not
There's another
what we might be able to do. There's also another attachment in this packet with some comparable counties, but I still go back to the fact that we pay what we can pay here in Grimes County. It doesn't matter what happens in Aransas or Chambers or Erath or Gillespie, Jasper, Panola. We're not competing for those people. So yet there may be some issues where they're a little higher paid, and there may be some issues where they're a little lower paid, but we have to determine what's the market value here in Grimes County.
Right. And my point is that as we compare jobs in one elected official's office to another elected official's office, there needs to be some comparison, some equity between those positions.
There probably are in some circumstances, but it's very difficult, as you're aware, based on discussions about this subject matter previously, to actually say this is what, across the board, what all these positions do. Can you similarly categorize them? Probably to some degree, but it's just a difficult process because people believe that their positions sometimes are more important than other positions.
Additionally, you have counties that have, maybe one employee in the treasurer's office versus 2 employees that we have here. And we don't, looking at this, we don't have all that information. It's something we need to look at. As was pointed out with the JPs in the county, we have 3 JPs here, and a lot of counties have 4 JPs, you know.
Most of those that in comparison have 2.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily know that her request is out of line. But I mean, is that really for us to determine what she's gonna classify her employees? Our job is really to determine whether or not we have the money to pay whatever she classifies them as.
I don't think we should give all elected officials free rein in where they think their employees should be classified and paid, because most are going to take a Santa Claus mentality versus a Scrooge mentality, and I get that. I don't blame them at all. But what I am saying, Commissioner, is that we need to have similar jobs rated the same, paid the same throughout the county. Otherwise, we might as well throw the salary grade process that we have out the window. And I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay?
I agree with that, because if we do,
You agree with what?
with what you just said,
Oh,
because if
okay.
we do allow them to do that, then it's gonna just do away with what we've set up.
I thought you were heading up this job evaluation thing and gonna have this resolved for us by now.
As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get your assistant to get this put on the agenda for the next Commissioners Court meeting,
Okay.
so we can discuss, but, I mean,
Well, I understand what you're saying, but if we turn the elected officials loose, including us, it's kind of the sky's the limit what they can get through their budget, and that's
where we come in. We're the committee, we control that.
I understand, but we have to have, in my opinion, a basis for controlling that.
Yeah, I feel there needs to be procedures involved with whichever route we decide to go with determining, you know, what job fits in what salary structure and what grade.
That's already done.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, we have all the positions available that I'm aware of that are already categorized and classified.
Right, but
So-
if I,
Well, as a decision maker, we don't have enough data based on what the market value is, based on what the job description is comparable to another job, even within the county, where that should fall. Even with the procedures beforehand, it was up to a committee that kind of just determined did a lot of that research. So for us to come in and say, here's where it should be, I don't think we have
And I don't
as
know how
much
many
data.
elected officials were on that committee,
But
which they should have been for input only.
Yeah, and that should be part of the, you know, whatever,
well, that's a
going
current
forward, what we
opinion,
need
it
to
wasn't a
do.
past opinion. Or it's a current opinion that's in play. If it was a past opinion, it wasn't in play.
When Ms. Pope set up the committee for this, she was having difficulty finding people that would even be willing to serve on the committee. That's a problem.
I understand. And I think the discussion was that ultimately it's gonna end up at Commissioners Court being a job evaluation committee.
So
And I don't,
why are we going through the extra steps of doing all this when ultimately everything that's taken, the committee can't make a decision on anything, really anything? Because if Ms. Trent wants to do something, the committee could say, we don't want you to, but it's still up to Ms. Trent whether she wants to bring it up here. It's up to us to determine whether or not we're gonna allow her on the agenda, but I've never seen anybody get turned down for that. But ultimately, it's up to the Commissioners Court. We're the committee. We are the committee. All the jobs have been classified.
But to a point that you made, you said that, I believe you said that the jobs weren't necessarily classified, right?
I don't think initially that if you look at the requirements of these jobs, they may be misclassified initially on the salary structure.
Well, and that's an opinion that you can have, but the opinion of the job evaluation team is that they were indeed reviewed, classified in comparison, and placed appropriately in the scale.
Okay.
Now, if elected official, department head, or anybody else has disagreement with that, and that's okay, then, as Ms. Trent's doing, she's bringing it before the court to say, hey, I think my people that are both fives, one ought to be a 7, one ought to be a 6. Here's the reason why. And then if there's justification in that reason why, then we as a commissioners court would say, yeah, we agree with you. We're gonna take that first assistant to a 7, we're gonna take that second assistant to a 6, based on what you've shared with us. But that's why I asked the question, is the language, has the language changed in the job descriptions that we have before us? Because if it hasn't, then I think the jobs ought to be left where they were, because that went through the job evaluation team.
Well, that
I mean,
job,
and that was what was in place in the past. If that changes in the future, that's okay too.
But the only thing about that job evaluation team is not every office was represented in that meeting, or in the meetings. You had representatives from different parts of the county, but not every office was in that meeting, or in those meetings.
I don't disagree with that.
And so we didn't have a chance to give our input.
I don't disagree with that.
I mean, Road and Bridge don't know what I do in my office, I don't know what they do in their office, you know? So how can someone that doesn't, or a group of people that don't know what actually goes on in a particular office tell you how your people should be rated on there?
That's why the job descriptions are very important when they were made, and we stressed that. When we, I think we stressed it when we
We did
talked about
stress it.
that. That those job descriptions need to be specific to what you do in that office. If you don't have it in there, now what we're doing is coming back, I'm assuming that we're coming back and adding things that were not put in there from the beginning.
We are.
And, you know.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay, but it's very, very important, and I can't stress that enough, that we do get everything that that position entails and get that in the job description.
and I think this salary structure has growing pains. I know Ms. Walker said this is our second year, but actually it's our first kind of year to get
Yeah.
used to this. And you're gonna have changes that are gonna be made.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and if you can't find committee people, well, maybe you just need to, you know, kinda revamp stuff like, Commissioner Cox was saying.
And I'm, you
And
know,
make it better for us as elected officials or department heads and for the employees.
as one of the court, I'm not opposed to having commissioners court be the one that reviews it in the future, along with the department head or the elected official, let them be the champion. And I guess my awakening is coming out of the private business world into the world of government, where
It's different.
it's different.
It's different.
I get that, but in the private business world, you could put a job evaluation team of competent people who could read, who could then come to a conclusion, and based on that conclusion, place jobs in different levels. Never was it my intention that because somebody's on the job evaluation team, now people in the county won't talk to them because you didn't get my job there. Well, it wasn't their job to get their job up, but their job was to review it in an appropriate way and come to a decision. So, you know, if we can't use our county employees for something like that because we're afraid that we're gonna lose so-called friends, and I'm not sure how much friends they are, then let's put it before the commissioners with the department heads and the elected officials. We're big boys and girls, and we can come to a conclusion. And I guess we don't care if people talk to us or not. but, except at election time. And I'm not opposed to that, but lacking any other process within the county, that was the best process, in my opinion, that was presented at the time to get us where we're at today.
And I think,
If we, I was just gonna say, and, you know, if we need to make this modification, if it's the appropriate thing to do, I don't oppose that.
and let me say one other thing. I know there was people on the committee that abandoned ship, so to speak. And
Yeah.
a lot of this structure was put on one individual, and she did a fantastic job. But, you know, I think it could have been a lot easier on her if she had more input from the elected officials.
And that's fair. I don't disagree. But it was hard enough to get the team together, let alone, elected officials and department heads. So. But Commissioner Cox is putting together a procedure that is gonna clear all of this up for us. And Ms. Wagner's gonna have it on the next agenda, I understand.
I hope so.
Not next week's. It's already gonna be long enough.
Mine will take but 10 seconds.
The longer the agenda, the better, I found. So, let's go back to the item before us, and that is consider and approve salary grade changes and salary definition changes for the assistant treasurer. But what I understand from you, Ms. Trent, there aren't any changes in the definitions at this time. Is that correct?
Well, there would be if you use my job descriptions.
The job descriptions that we have in front of us are the original job descriptions?
No,
These
those
are
are
the
the
modi-
changes. Those are modified.
Okay, I thought you told me these.
I'm sorry, I was thinking something else.
Okay.
So do you wanna highlight to the court what those changes are?
Thank
that
you.
are different from the last one?
Okay.
So that,
Initially, I had them, the reason they were in the same grade is because I had them equal. And they're by no means equal. Yes, we're all cross-trained to do each other's job in case someone gets sick. But the first assistant, who's, the payroll, I call her the payroll specialist, she works with payroll, does monthly reports, you can read what I've written down here, and she's also my replacement when I'm gone to conferences or sick or have to take care of a grandchild. Just throw that in. And, she has daily contact with elected and appointed officials. This position also goes out of their way to help people when they call. Very seldom do they turn them down, as in to help them. And you can see there's a lot of A, Bs, and Cs. And it's just more spelled out for each individual position.
Can you identify which are added from what was previously reviewed? Do you have that availability?
I don't have that over with me.
Okay. Are there two or three key things that you feel that have been added to this that weren't added, that weren't a part of the previous?
One of the key things is, she is my replacement when I'm out, and she's also the administrator for the bank when I'm out.
Okay.
That means if someone in the county, they can view their account is locked out, they can contact my office. And if I'm not there, she can unlock them so they can review their account.
So in some respects, your job's not necessarily harder or more, but you are giving her more responsibility at a higher level.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I do have a copy, but not for each one of you. They have individually listed what they do on a day, on a monthly, weekly basis, if y'all need copies of that too. And on the second assistant, she's an accounts payable specialist, and she handles, I think I defined everything more in this than I did in the previous one, as far as cell phones, jury pay, which is always cash, And credit cards, which if you've had to deal with credit cards, I'm not talking about the individuals purchasing, I'm talking about making sure it's paid in the proper.
Did you go to the second assistant? Is that where you're at now? Okay.
And I can pull my old one and do a comparison if that's what you want.
When would you want these to take effect if they were approved by the court?
I would like to see this effect October the 1st.
Do you know if any of the salaries between the two would have to be adjusted?
The cost to the county would be $4,800.
Do you have that money in your budget?
Not right now, I have 2/3 of it in there, if it rolls forward, but
So would both of these positions require a pay adjustment?
yes, sir. And I went to the auditor's office and talked with Jessie, and she helped me out on that to make sure I was on the right track.
And that $4,800 would take them to the minimum of 7 and the minimum of 6?
No. It would take them with the 2% increase. That would include the 2% increase.
Well, okay, but I mean,
Yes.
So would their salary rate next year would be 1732 or 1734 and 1632
Right,
okay,
with the COLA.
with the COLA.
okay.
So one of the observations, I'll just throw this out there while y'all are deliberating or considering, is the timeliness of these requests. As you can see, it creates a burden if we do it at unspecified times. So I think that's something that I'll discuss.
What about procedures that we do
Now,
that?
hopefully that procedure puts us where we're in the budget planning versus the budget ending time.
Right.
But that's not to say, we don't make that's not to say that we can't make decisions that will affect positions throughout the year, because it might be to the county's
Sure.
benefit in some of those situations to pull the trigger on some changes. Is there a motion on agenda item number 11?
Janice, you didn't mention, your employees have administrative authority on the bank accounts, and you mentioned, having, like if someone gets locked out and having access for that. But they have direct access to transfer monies between any of the accounts, JPs, tax assessors,
Because they're bonded to do so.
payroll, they can make transfers, move money that affect the entire county. Having administrative access, to the bank accounts is much more than just if someone gets locked out of an account. I just,
And it's positive
I wasn't
pay,
under-
to make sure the checks are paid, when they pick them up, the money's there. It's EFT, making sure your payroll check is in your bank account.
Can I, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
you please finish.
She's right, they do have banking privilege.
Can I ask who was in your review?
Yes,
You don't have to say names, you can just,
This
okay,
one?
Commissioner Cox was,
that one.
okay. And
I
and
read
that
it's
one.
not that
I'm
it's
not
not that I
saying
don't,
names.
it's not that I don't trust Commissioner Cox,
And
but,
this one right over here.
but Ms. Herrera, Ms. Pope have been involved as we started this.
Don't forget Miss Warner.
Yeah, but I wasn't.
She
I'm
wasn't,
sorry.
she was one of those left out persons she was talking about.
Including me.
So I would just ask you two, do you feel that the review was consistent in the previous reviews that we've done?
if the review of her job description,
Do you agree or believe that the review of the proposed job changes were done in accordance with the way we've done the previous job reviews? And based on that, do you concur with Ms. Trent?
I think that it was done consistently with how we were doing them before.
Okay,
I made a different suggestion, very close to it, but I made a little bit different suggestion to Ms. Trant. She is in her right to submit it however.
I understand that.
She feels,
But I guess what I'm looking for is, we had a way we were doing it in the past, and I'm interested, what we did is this consistent with what we've done thus far until we see Commissioner Cox's
yes,
proposal?
it is consistent.
Okay. You don't necessarily agree with what's being presented?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. What I offered or proposed to her, like from my perspective, was a little bit more conservative. That's very conservative, then that's very appropriate in my opinion. I've seen things not get approved, and so I had told her to, or I suggested the second assistant at a 5 and the first assistant being raised to a 6. I think those changes wouldn't have caused any need for any financial burden, and that's the reason that I would have done that, is because of the financial side of it.
But do you feel like, put the financial aside, do you feel like the job should go to a 7?
Yes, I
And
do.
the other one should go to a 6? Ms. Pope?
I feel the same way. It's consistent.
What's the sen, okay, that's consistent.
Yeah.
Do you feel that what Ms. Trant is recommending, that the one goes to the 7 and the one goes to the 6 is appropriate?
It is appropriate, but it's up to that elected official to come forward, the Commissioner's Court. It's not our decision. She can go and ask for an 8 or a 10. As long as she has.
Lucy, I get that.
Okay.
What I'm asking is, based on how we reviewed the jobs in the past, based on your review of these job descriptions, are you comfortable, forget the financial, are you comfortable with the jobs being elevated to what Ms. Trent suggested?
Right, I do.
You do, all right. You do, but 1 grade up, not 2 grades up.
No, I agree with this, and,
You agree with what? What's
I agree with
proposed?
what she's proposing.
Okay.
If money is completely not considered at all.
Oh, money's never an issue around
Chief
here.
deputies, there've been changes that have been approved. Chief deputies were all in 5, paralegals were in 5. There have been changes that have been done, but the descriptions didn't necessarily get fixed, get changed in accordance with those changes. So when paralegals were moved out of 5 and moved into their own category, or when the chief deputies were moved out of 5 and moved into 7, the job description that is in 5, that's the reason, some of you on the Commissioner's Court might see the description that is in 5 and it makes sense that they belong there. But there have been changes that have been made over this process, over these growing pains, that have not adjusted necessarily the description. And so with that in mind, and the fact that chief deputies in other departments are currently at a 7, and they do not transfer money with the click of a button between departments. Money's from the tax assessor, from the county clerk district clerk. With the click of a button, in the treasurer's absence, can be moved around, and you're talking in tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars can be transferred very, very easily.
Do you feel the jobs were appropriately positioned based on the previous job descriptions?
At a 5?
Yeah.
I feel like there was a lot of them in 5s that didn't belong in 5s. But because there were higher level jobs in 5s, we couldn't, or the committee couldn't accept or make the recommendation to move anyone higher or different, because you had paralegals, you had chief deputies, you had all these different positions at a 5, because what salaries were paid played a factor. They couldn't see others being moved up. And so in the process of whenever paralegals or chief deputies were moved, all these other positions weren't necessarily reassessed at that time.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of the origin of this problem.
Okay. But the original placement, they were correct.
I don't agree with that.
Then why do we do it?
Because that's where you have a lot of comparable positions. And some of those comparable positions, such as the chief deputies for another department, you have a first assistant for the treasurer. When those were changed, and rightfully so, because Commissioner's Court made that decision, in other, those comparable positions that were in 5, because those other ones were comparable based on job descriptions, I think they should have been assessed at that time as well.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So if there was an error with the other ones that were moved, how is there not an error? And now that you're looking in retrospect, at that time, it makes sense.
That's what I was looking for, at that time.
At that time, it makes
Since
sense.
we've made adjustments throughout, I get that,
Yes.
but our initial foundation, it was either right or it was wrong.
At that time, that's what makes sense, yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Walker, you have a question?
I do. On grade 6, if you're suggesting moving one to grade 6, the verbiage doesn't match.
That's what the verbiage would have to change.
So, only thing you're talking about in grade 6 now is building maintenance manager, community service coordinator that oversees employees up to grade 4 and probationers. And then you have road and bridge assistant lead mechanic. So, the verbiage there would need to change.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, could I just ask a question? I thought your
Is it a
committee,
short one? No, go
your
ahead.
committee originally did it on market, right? What the market pays for a specific position.
Did a comparative analysis of counties and market, yes.
Right, but wasn't that the purpose? I mean, you're given a floor and a ceiling for pay.
Yes, sir.
And you're seeing what the market's paying for that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, because each of us as elected officials are gonna say, our employees are geniuses and they all need to be 10s.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you're the people that are gonna have to say, the market doesn't dictate that.
Agreed.
And either you're gonna use the data that the elected official says, here's the data I found, or you're gonna use your own data, or you're gonna use your feel, your finger to the wind and say, this is what I feel like the data should be. But to talk about what authority or what power somebody has in their office or what employee has, that's not really how the salary structure was set up. It was supposed to be market, not this person has the ability to transfer money and this other person doesn't have the ability to transfer money. And the market may ferret that out, and the market may show somebody has authority to transfer money at the push of a button, gets paid more, but that in itself isn't how the salary structure was determined.
That's correct.
Okay.
But she did present all of that information that you're suggesting, which was based originally the same way. She went and she got comparables to
Right.
surrounding
I
counties.
just want to be sure we're focused on
Yeah.
the ball here, and the ball is market,
Yes.
not necessarily duties, because we could all come in with 50 duties that are nuanced, that are specific, that no one else does, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that means more pay. It means that's a description for you all to look at and say, if I go look in the market for this description, what is the market paying? That's the purpose of that.
Yes, John, I agree
Which
with
is
that.
what's been presented, and also to your comment earlier about the surrounding counties, that's what we used was surrounding counties, and we also used, like she did, where you go in and you get comparable counties that have maybe the same budget, the same population. That's what we used originally, so to say that perhaps that wasn't the way she should have done it, that's the way we did it in the beginning, right? So the comparables and the method we used didn't change. So we said in the beginning that this is an immature document and we would tweak it.
I really don't like that word. I like the new document versus immature.
Well, that was your
I
word.
know it's my word. And I'm sorry I ever said it. I just let the record reflect.
And as she has stated, over the past, when we originally looked at this, we did have them all grouped in this one lump, and then we decided, well, this one has paralegal, professional, should be here, and chief deputies. We looked at some chief deputy positions, and they were changed, and so I think what you're seeing is now other people coming in, and like Ms. Tran has done, she's done her homework on comparables to the surrounding counties and also to counties across the state and also to positions as a whole across the nation. So I don't know what else she needs to do, but other people presented the same information.
And I've turned in evaluations.
and their positions were changed, so I don't know. This is all confusing to me, so.
Is there a motion in there?
Yes, I
Okay.
will make one. I would like to make the motion to approve the salary grade changes and salary definitions for the assistant treasurers, and to also change the verbiage on our grade structure for item number 6 to reflect the changes.
There's a motion before the court, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion before the court on agenda item number 11 by Commissioner Walker, seconded by Commissioner Mallett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
I abstained as well.
2 abstain, 3 ayes. Agenda item number, motion passes. Agenda item number 12, County Clerk David Paskett. Thank you, Ms. Trent.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioner.
Agenda item number 12, consider and take action to restructure personnel classifications in the county clerk's office for purposes of job descriptions and pay grades. Mr. Paskett, you saw how easy that was? You're
Yeah.
on.
I'm glad I followed that. I'm sorry. Approximately 4 weeks ago, due to retirement in my office, job descriptions and workloads changed considerably. And I'm sure y'all are aware of what took place. I've always, for 29 years, I just have a little hand-drawn thing here, but I had the county clerk, I had a chief deputy, and I had a person classified as 5 under that. And that's how we were structured. And I got to thinking, how was I, as a department head, gonna make this work? We don't have an option, it's gotta get done. I got with Vanessa Brzezinski, who's gonna be replacing me in just a couple of months, and talked this over with her, and she's in total agreement with this. She's not here today, she's at a TAC conference. But my office is a little bit different than some other offices in that we have a court side of it, and then we have the, I'll call it real property side of it. And under the real property side, you have all the vital statistics, your birth, death records, marriage records, and so forth. I've decided not to have a chief deputy for the remainder of my time. So by doing that, and by the way, I'm sure y'all are aware, I hired Vanessa. She will be coming to work for me Monday in my office. And Vanessa is classified as a 5. I met with the salary committee, and it was suggested in that committee that I meet with the auditor's department. Vanessa and I met with the auditor's department, and they were very helpful in trying to get this structured. So what we came up with, we're gonna have a court administration side and an office real property side. And two of my employees who probably are affected the most with this will increase, one is currently a 2. She will move up to a 3, and my 3, which was here, will move up to a 4, and it's gonna have, the workload is gonna affect all of my employees, but it's gonna affect some more than others. And so that's what we came up with. And with that,
Mr. Paskett, could we have a diagram if you have enough?
absolutely. And on this sheet here, this top shows what I was at. On the bottom half of it here, it shows what I'm proposing to do and where these people are currently and what I am proposing salary-wise to do. I'm not asking for, this is within my budget. I'm not asking for a budget increase, I'm just asking for a change in salary.
So what you have, let me just clarify, Mr. Paskett, so what you proposed to restructure your organization, to restructure the county clerk's office, having a real property side and having a court side, you're utilizing the same amount of people, you're just redistributing the workload, and at the end of the day, you're able to redistribute the workload under the same budget dollars that you've submitted for the 2019 budget.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I will say that on the court side, we heard from Judge McLean the other day. He's got a year under his belt as county court at law judge, and he's gonna increase the workload pretty substantial.
He's fired up.
Yeah. In fact, he's gonna try to have a jury trial every month, and the overall court caseload is gonna increase pretty substantially. Now, at some point, and I don't know where that point is, it's not gonna happen between now and the end of the year, but it's gonna be impossible for one person to take care of that court side. But y'all can address that when time comes.
If I could interject here, I can tell you it's already impossible for one person to keep up with the court side.
So this restructuring will make it more efficient to the court and to the public?
Somewhat, it's not gonna, it's not gonna, it'll get the job done.
And that's what
Everything that needs to be done will be done.
And Ms. Brzezinski is on board with this as
She's
well.
on board totally with that.
She has shared with me she is.
Now, I thought I heard you said someone's moving to a 4, but it doesn't reflect that on your sheet, your Excel sheet.
Okay. Well, it should.
I see 2 5s, 2 3s, and a 2.
Okay, one of those will be a 4.
One of the clerk 3s.
Yeah.
Is it the upper one?
Yeah, it's the upper one. That'll be Freddie Henson.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Paskett?
Where, I do have one other one. Where will the records management, the process you're gonna have done with your records, is that gonna be done within the structure you have?
I'm gonna put Vanessa in charge of that
Okay.
as project manager. And if she has to work, any additional time toward that project, it'll be charged to the records management thing, and it won't have any impact on this. She'll actually fill out a separate time sheet that'll be going to the records management thing.
What happens when she becomes the county clerk, though? She can't.
Well, that's gonna be her decision. You know, she can figure out, I'm thinking that this will help her tremendously in learning the office.
Sure.
And learning how things are done.
And who she hires as
And
her
who she
replacement
hires
or
and who she
promotes?
replaces, and she may come in and wanna have a chief deputy, and that's fine, but her position will be available at the first year.
Any other questions for Mr. Paskett? Is there a motion?
I move that we allow the county clerk to restructure personnel classification in the county clerk's office for the purpose of the job description and pay grades.
Is there a second?
I'll second motion.
There's a motion before the court on agenda item number 12 by Commissioner Cox, seconded by Commissioner Mallett. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
There's
Motion.
one thing I did not mention.
We just voted.
When I was talking to the auditor, I believe it was determined that funds are available currently.
That should have been on the schedule. Yeah, there's unused funds. It only uses a small portion of the available funds,
Yeah.
excess funds in your, not excess funds, but the available funds in that line item. There is money available to make the change effective immediately.
So what I would like to do, I believe we said there was 3 pay periods. Well, there's
Actually, two now, yeah.
So if we could make it effective for the final 2 pay periods of this budget year.
And the money is available?
I haven't had an opportunity to.
There's several, a couple thousand, over 2,000, I think they need like $600 at the most, but yes, it's available.
Okay, well, we've approved the organizational change. We didn't say when it would take effective.
I'd amend my motion to become effective today, September the 5th.
Commissioner Cox has amended his motion to make it effective today, September the 5th. Is there a second?
I'll still second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Mallett. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nothing else?
Thank y'all very much.
That's it, okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along to agenda item number 13, consider and approve 5-year contract with K&K Vending for snack and drink vending machines.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Can
sorry.
we amend that amendment, because we need to make it effective on Monday, I believe, started the new payroll. And so they don't have 2 different pay rates.
It'll create more room for error, and that way there's just one rate for each employee. instead of 2 rates on every employee.
I've got room. Is there an amendment to the amendment?
I would amend the
And the
last
proposed start
amended
rate would be,
motion
This pay period.
For this pay period.
to reflect that it state this becomes effective at the beginning of the current pay period.
There you go.
Commissioner Mountain,
I'll
do I ask
second
for
that.
another second?
Yes.
That's your third second. Okay. We're gonna take one more vote on this. All in favor of the amendment to the motion, to the amendment, that it starts with this pay period, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries again.
Third time's a charm.
That's it. Okay, number 13, consider and approve 5-year contract with K&K Vending for snack and drink vending machines located in the Law Enforcement Center, the county clerk's office, and the annex, and authorize the county judge as signatory. Attachment number 13. I will admit, I haven't done any research with anybody on how effective these people are and who these people are. And y'all have much more of a track record than I do, so I'm open from comments from the court or the audience.
Lucy would be more apt to speak to that for this building.
Could I ask a question out loud? Do we know what the 10% is, and we can figure out what the 90% is? Because there could be some value in the county having its own machines. Get you and putting Sheree in charge of it. Just said there could be some value in that, and there could be somebody else that provides it. As far as I know, they've always done a good job. Somebody could certainly correct me, but I don't know any more than what's contained in the contract, if you will, the one-page document that we have. And 5 years is a long time. to
Yes,
sign
it
up
is.
Looking
If
at
you
that
don't
too.
know
He
what
said
you,
it could
what
be
you're doing.
canceled anytime.
For non-performance, right, which is always the case in every contract essentially.
And I did speak to him yesterday and asked why Navasota Annex was not included. He said because it would get stale, and he didn't see much value there for him to make that journey over, so.
Y'all don't snack down there?
We snack, but I guess we have to continue to get our own snacks.
So is it your suggestion, Mr. Foltz, just courteously that we do a little review on this?
Absolutely. The last time this came up, I don't recall a lot of information other than the fact that this individual, or this entity, had been doing it for a while. I don't recall any real information being exchanged as to how good a job they're doing, what the market looks like, could we do it ourselves? I don't recall that, and I don't know why it's 5 years. Maybe the margin, the profits on it are so small that he wants the 5-year investment. It would make sense if that's
Sure.
the case, but I don't know any of that.
And do we have any idea how much the 10% commission has been?
I don't.
Who gets the money?
Janice.
Why do you people keep leaving?
They're approving
They're doing payroll.
Okay, that's more important.
The bank changed the way we do things.
Okay,
as of
well,
Monday, so.
I would recommend that we table this upon review of Commissioners Court, and Ms. Wagner, if you will maybe visit with the treasurer and the auditor's office and see if we can find out what the value of that 10% is.
It's not much, I can tell you that.
Well, undoubtedly, but, you know, and it might not be worth it for us to maintain the machines and load the machines and everything else, but it's a question that I don't have an answer for, and I don't think anybody else does, so.
And I'm not suggesting any impropriety, but I don't know
No.
if we've ever done an audit to know that we're getting 10%.
I understand, and that's why I asking Ms. Wagner to have the auditor's office involved, so. And then if you'll, Sheree, put it back on the agenda when y'all's investigation is concluded and recommendation is ready.
And it wouldn't hurt, Judge, if we, went out for bids on this even. And then we could include the Navasota Annex on that, and maybe get some other vending companies around to do it.
Maybe, my guess is nobody wants to touch it, that's my guess.
Yeah.
If they did, they'd be beating down the door, saying,
I
let me
understand.
have it, let me have it.
I understand.
1/4 for the county, 9/4 for me. 1/4 for the county. Right.
So we're in agreement, Commissioners, to table this for
Yes.
the time being upon further review. Agenda item number 14, consider and take action to approve the agreement with McDonald's Systems doing business as Texas Jet Systems effective November 1, 2018 until November 1, 2019, and authorize the county judge as signatory. See attachment 14. I read the contract, but I don't understand on the contract what they provide us.
They provide the service for the Iola JP office for the aerobic sewer.
For the sewer system? Okay.
And they always, or they have for a long time that I know of, this has been renewed multiple times, but it would be beneficial, I think. It says what services they'll provide for the money that we're paying, but it doesn't say the location, I don't think, and that may be beneficial if we put that in there for folks like you, Judge, that come on board and don't know what we're talking about.
Yep.
I remembered it was somewhere in the north end, but I couldn't remember what septic system we were maintaining.
Mr. Peeler, do you have any knowledge of this?
No, sir.
This would be a Cat William, or a Cat Lee issue maybe?
Commissioner Mallett is the one that handles that precinct maintenance, I believe.
Well,
Is that correct, Commissioner Mallett?
Do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I mean, I believe we need to approve this. We're already for maintenance of aerobic system. I believe the barn doesn't have an aerobic system. It has,
I think it's just for the
yeah, it's just for the JP. It's just for the annex, Iowa annex.
So is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the agreement with McDougall Systems, Inc., DBA, doing business as Texas Jet Systems, effective November 1st, 2018 until November 1st, 2019. Authorize the county judge as signatory.
With the addition of the.
With the addition of the
locations.
location of the Iowa annex.
Okay, thank you.
Second motion.
All right. There is a motion before the court on agenda item number 14 by Commissioner Mallett, and seconded by Commissioner Dobianski, with the understanding that we'd add location to the contract. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 15, Road and Bridge, Mr. Walker. God bless you for hanging around.
Good afternoon.
This is a special meeting, so it's a short one, so.
I'm glad.
In all seriousness, do we need to move you up on the agenda so you can get back at it, or do you prefer to hang towards the end?
This was a last minute favor just to get on this agenda, so I'm not gonna complain.
All right, sir.
He's here for
The discussion's been interesting anyway, so.
Carry on.
Last week we opened bids on 6 annual contracts for Road and Bridge. There was a procedural error in one of the bid openings for contract calling. In order to avoid any possible perception of any impropriety or any questions resulting from that procedural error, I'm recommending that we reject all the bids on contract calling and asking permission from y'all to reauthorize bidding of that contract.
I'm going to just quickly defer to legal. Do you agree that sounds like a good idea to you, sir?
Yes.
Any further discussion, Mr. Walker? Commissioners?
Do we have the problem fixed?
Pardon?
We have the problem fixed,
I
whatever
think
it
we
is?
do.
Okay.
I'd like to make the motion to take action to reject all bids received on contract hauling and authorize the county judge, and authorize the contract be rebid.
Second.
Okay, I think David beat you on that one. There's a motion before the court on agenda item number 15 by Commissioner Walker, seconded by Commissioner Dobianski. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Agenda item number 16, consider and take action regarding the burn ban and authorize the county judge as signatory. I talked to David Lilly yesterday. Out of 6 volunteer chiefs that he talked to, 2 were in favor of pulling the burn ban, 4 were in favor of keeping the burn ban. I think my suggestion would be we keep the burn ban for one more week and see if we can get some of these rains to get an even watering throughout the county.
We've had places that have not had any rain still.
Yes. So I would recommend
Still
no
within the
action.
90 days.
We're still within, because we didn't go on until July the 25th.
It's in October.
Yeah, we're still in good shape. So we're okay to table this for now?
Yeah.
Or no action?
No action.
No action. That brings us to agenda item number 17.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion before the court on agenda item number 17 by Commissioner Dobianski to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Walker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is finally adjourned.